nothing a comic book reader likes better than a superhero. But now, comic book giant Marvel is losing 8 of its top creators of superheroes. The reason? Control over their creations.
Allow me to paint you a picture. It's 1992, and artists are leaving DC and Marvel due to its work-for-hire business model. A 31-year-old Todd McFarlane saw an opportunity to band these disgruntled artists together, and he took it. Using a creator-owned business model, Todd McFarlane got the 7 best comic book artists together, and with these artists created a company which went on to consistently rival Marvel and DC, and for a time, even become the largest direct comic book market publisher in the industry. This is the story of Image Comics. In April 1992, the first issue comics issue was released. It was Rob Liefeld's Youngblood #1. This was quickly followed up by Spawn #1, which was Todd McFarlane's magnum opus. With the momentum of 2 amazing original characters, Image Comics quickly became Marvel and DC's biggest competitor, and served as a revival of the independent comic era, which was last seen towards the latter end of the 1980s. Image Comics now had 2 very successful titles under their belt, with pre-orders of Youngblood reaching 930,000 copies, and Spawn debuting with a print run of over 1.7 million copies. Through 1992 and 1993, many of Image's titles sold over 500,000 per copy. But after a controversy with late deliveries in 1993, by mid-1994, these titles only reached 250,000, kickstarting a fall so soon after their invention. In context, comic book shops were invented in 1969, and every year they only got bigger and bigger, but they lost their huge popularity after a while. During a huge crash in the comic book market in 1994, multiple comic book shops were shutting down, meaning the sales of the comic books declined. This was a bad sign for all independent comic artists, making many go bankrupt or must rejoin their hated place of Marvel and DC. Image Comics, though, were different. They were a company, so they still tried to battle against Marvel and DC. But due to that controversy I mentioned earlier in 1993, where issues weren't being delivered on time, Image Comics were officially at their lowest point. Arguments and fights were common at Image Comics, but these fights made founders reach their breaking point when the CEO, Mark Silvestri, in the summer of 1996, announced he was leaving Image Comics due to clashing heads with the then unnamed Image partner. This was followed by, in September, when Rob Liefeld resigned from Image Comics as well, shortly before a vote to kick him out of the company. This one didn't turn out well for him though, because then he went on to become an infamous comic book artist because he was one of the worst out there. So after this, then Mark Silvestri rejoined Image Comics, probably because it was him and Rob Liefeld having fights. This allowed them to gain their momentum back, but so soon after gaining that momentum, Jim Lee then left in 1998. But after this, in 2003, something happened at Image Comics. Someone joined Image Comics, which turned their company around completely. In the height of this controversy, Image Comics actually went through a near revival during it, thanks to Todd McFarlane's Spawn.
What the hell are you? Spawn.
Which was a predecessor for many future adult animated shows. It paved the way for a new generation of animated shows, and many animated shows you can see now still has influences that Spawn created. Although the show's amazing, it didn't have enough to revive a whole company. But on the 8th of October 2003, Image Comics was saved by a singular man. Robert Kirkman joined the company after being rejected so many times by Todd McFarlane, and then on the 8th of October, he released The Walking Dead. This ran for 193 issues and became the best-selling comic book in initial orders for any publisher since 1997. Despite an underwhelming ending, just like its live-action adaptation, The Walking Dead is still one of the most popular titles to this date. As mentioned before, despite only loosely following the source material, the live-action adaptation was one of the most popular TV series on the planet, with Series 5 premiere alone pulled in 17.29 million viewers. Although the show declined in quality, Robert Kirkman's writing didn't. Only a couple of months later, he released Invincible, issue 1. The writing was consistently amazing, and it pulled in a sort of cult-like fan base. These comics became critically acclaimed, and there's even plans for a film in the mid-2000s, which didn't come to fruition, which I am kind of glad about because it probably would have been awful. It did gain a larger audience though when The Walking Dead was popular, but it's gained its largest audience now. On March 25th, 2021, Amazon Prime released the first episode of Invincible, with a new take on the recycled superhero formula and an amazing first episode twist. Invincible quickly grabbed the attention of viewers and became the most popular show on Amazon Prime.
It down for you, Mark.
This introduced this niche comic book to a worldwide audience. With 3 omnibuses already released, these comics quickly became sought after and were really hard to buy. But this also cemented Robert Kirkman as one of the best modern comic book writers, and it allowed Image Comics to beat Dark Horse again and become the 3rd largest comic book publisher. Despite fighting an uphill battle for years and fallouts between the founders, Image Comics stood strong and fought tooth and nail to achieve their dream. Despite the founders having rocky relationships, they've been mended, and all the founders became successful in their own way. With Image Comics probably now being bigger now than ever, with a Spawn movie on the way, and Invincible grabbing a larger audience even now with season 2 being critically acclaimed, this has been the tumultuous story of Image Comics.
We did not know, now that we have hindsight, that what we were going to do was actually going to sort of alter sort of the course of comic books, right? So that this valid option could exist and succeed